Howdy folks. I've been meaning to try out Larry Wolfe's homemade lasagna, and it looks like today is the day. I have his printed recipes for both the meat sauce and the lasagna. I'll put links in the description to his videos and to these because they're real convenient. And anyway, I'm cutting it to about 2/3 because he made a lot of sauce. So I'm using a pound of 80/20 and 2/3 of a pound of sausage. He used Italian sausage, but I'm just going to wing it because I don't have any, and I'll throw in some Italian seasoning and pretend. Now, of course, Larry would do all of this in this, madman as he is. I'm a little sloppier, so I'm going to use a little bit larger pan, I think. Now, exercising my little paddle wheel, away we go. Some of this is still partly frozen, but it'll get over it soon. Now this will brown for several minutes. It doesn't have to be fully cooked. Just browned. Now while that's going, his recipe calls for a large yellow onion. I have a kind of medium-ish yellow onion, so I'm throwing in a little bit of sweet white onion that I had left over. He also calls for 1 large clove of garlic. I think that's large enough. And 1 large bell pepper. Well, I have that much of a yellow pepper, and it's just going to have to do. Come back here. That ought to work. Now, scaling down a bit, I think this probably qualifies as a large clove of garlic. What do you want? You don't even like garlic. Now all of this goes over here. Now that the meat is nicely browned, spilling it appropriately all over the stove. Now we saute all of this for about 10 minutes or so. Until the mushrooms that Larry calls for, which I don't have, are reduced by half. I will do it until it looks right, and pretend like there are mushrooms in it. Now while this is going, I'm adding a couple of bay leaves, some arbitrary amount of Italian seasoning to make that non-Italian sausage pretend to be Italian, a tablespoon of granulated garlic. Why it needs more garlic, I don't know, but he calls for it, and I don't ask. A tablespoon of granulated onion. Again, when it comes to Larry's seasonings, I don't ask. A tablespoon of oregano. A tablespoon of basil. Or thereabouts. A half a teaspoon or thereabouts of red pepper flakes. A half a teaspoon or thereabouts of salt. And a teaspoon of sugar. I'm adding it in the form of honey. I figured, why not? Now at this point, although Larry will call me a wuss, I'm transferring this to a bigger pot. Sorry, Larry. Because I haven't even started to build the sauce yet. Now he calls for 3 cans of diced tomatoes. I have a conundrum. I only have 1. So I'm going to wing it. I'll add about a half a can of water and 1 diced fresh tomato. Those I have plenty of. And maybe about a half a jar of prefabbed tomato sauce. Thusly. And we'll see how that goes. Glad I transferred it to a bigger pot. I hope I don't have to put anything else in here. Now we bring this back up to a simmer. Cover it up. And let it go for 3 hours. Now with the sauce about done, it's time to start building a lasagna. And I'm using 3 cups of cottage cheese. Yes, cottage cheese in lieu of ricotta. Sometimes it just works better. And I know I'll eat the leftovers. Now we add 2 cups of mozzarella, and according to this bag, it contains 2 cups. I'll take their word for it. And we add a cup of Parmesan. I'm using the ground stuff in here, saving the good stuff for topping it. Now we add 2 eggs. A half teaspoon of salt, or thereabouts, and an approximately equal amount of cracked black. Now he calls for 2 cups of spinach. And to make it easier to handle, I'm just roughly chopping it. Of course, How much is 2 cups of spinach? It depends on how hard you sit on it when you stuff it into the cup, isn't it? Good enough. Come out of there. Now the next project is to mix this all together. And it appears that the best way is to just dive in with both hands. Get to know it. Looks good enough to me. Now again, I'm scaling it down a little. Larry used a 9x13 pan. I'm using an 8x11. Because there's only me, and Rocky doesn't like lasagna. At least I don't think he does. He might prove me wrong. Anyhow, I put a thin layer of sauce on the bottom. And a reason this sauce might seem a little thin is because we use uncooked lasagna noodles. How convenient. It's just a tiny modification. They fit in 3 across. Cool! Now we allegedly evenly spread roughly half of the cheese mixture as the next layer. Yeah, try to spread spinach. Close enough for government work. Now, more meat sauce. And more lasagna noodles. Just almost overlap these and get a 4th one in here. Yes, indeed I can. And now more cheese mixture. And now a final layer of noodles. And again, I think I'm going to overlap them just a little. Thusly. Now a final thin layer of sauce just to cover. And this dish is getting seriously full. Do not put this in the oven without something under it, unless you're in the mood to clean your oven. Now cover it with foil. And put it in a 350-degree oven. For 1 hour. During which period it will have plenty of time to make you insanely hungry. Now at the end of the hour, pull it out, uncover it, and I'm laying on some sliced mozzarella to top it off. Yum! And now back in the oven until the cheese is a nice golden brown. So now I get to sit here and stare at it for another 15 minutes while it cools off enough to cut. And Lord Almighty, am I hungry. And now comes the real test. It looks great. Come on, let go. Oh, yum. I think this just might be the best lasagna I've ever had. I have to eat a little more to be sure. Seriously, this stuff is good. Served with some garlic toast. And since my choice was either deli rye or English muffins, I chose the nooks and crannies. Add a nice salad. A little of the grape. And I'm set. Do excuse me.